It's all very disturbing, worrying. It's a source of anxiety.
I used to be nearly crying. The tension and the mental effect that had on me coming down there. I know what is going to be wrong and where am I going to go.
This is the reality for people living at Lough Funshinagh in County Roscommon, who have been faced with the threat of flooding for several years. Homeowners, farmers and residents around the area are forced to deal with the impact of their homes, farmyards, land and roads being flooded. It has led to calls for action to deal with the rising water levels at Lough Funshinagh, but locals fear that a solution won't be achieved for several years until planning permission is granted for flood relief works.
That height there is where it came to in 2016, and I'm a good 6 foot, so it just shows you now how height it was. It's difficult enough to make money out of farming besides having to spend all your money that you do make on driving around roads, pulling through water, extra costs on top of it. Like, we had to go off last year and we had to put up new handling facilities for cattle because we couldn't handle them here as the pin is full of water. Tractor in there, constantly water damage going to it, bearings going, seals going, just pure water in them. Just it doesn't have a good positive effect on you. As our field up there, it's good quality farming land. We've that field now, we won't get up to it until the end of May. That's all we want to do with is farm our land.
When I was a young lad going to school, I used to always get picked up here. And I'd be watching the water coming out, and it'd come to the road. It'd never come any further. And the road is 2.5 feet lower that time than it is today. 2016, you couldn't believe it. 3 inches a day. 3 inches a day it was rising. I used to measure it with a 6-inch block, leave it over there. And I said, what's going to happen? You know, it was about 6 inches away from going into the sheds. I said, the whole place is going to be polluted. Trying to get vets to come in, put vets in the bucket of the tractor to bring them in to pull a calf. I had to get a vet yesterday evening, I had to bring her over and put her in the jeep and drive her through the pond to get her in here. And up the road 4 or 5 times, 10, 12, 15 miles, 4 or 5 times a day. I used to be nearly crying. The tension and the mental effect that had on me coming down there. Nobody here to talk to. I know what is going to be wrong and where am I going to go to get somebody to help me.
This is a turlock which normally dries out in the summertime and rejuvenates again in the wintertime, especially if we have conservation, an in-nature area, a large feeding ground for birds in the wintertime, a nesting ground for some birds, and a large array of very rare species of plants used to go around the perimeter of the lake and within the lake. So the requirement for that was that the water rose and fell. Since 2015 and indeed before, the level of the lake has been incrementally rising. We now have a situation where in this year the lake is at a new height, about to hit a new peak. The last peak was in 2021, which came at the end of March, early April. So we're going to go much higher this year in the next 6 weeks to 8 weeks. Roscommon County Council, working with the OPW, commissioned a plan to put in a new pipe to take a quantity of water from the very top of the turlock. Sadly, a legal injunction was taken against the council to stop the work when 75% of it was complete. So what's happening now is this serious studies being done by the OPW and Roscommon County Council and the Minister O'Donnell working together to do a full environmental assessment, to do a full ecological assessment, and to do a full assessment on how effective the pipe is going to be. And bring that to on board Planola, and hopefully we will get the pipe in 5 or 6 years too late. The challenge is that it's going to take a number of years to do that, and in the meantime will we have lost the villages because the lake has continued to rise.
The proposed flood relief solution in 2021 was halted following a successful High Court challenge by the Friends of the Irish Environment. The environmental group has said they appreciate the anguish and anxiety that people are experiencing in the local area. They claim the issue is the Office of Public Works' decision not to fund the proposed scheme on cost-benefit grounds and the council's subsequent illegal actions in undertaking the proposed scheme. However, this has not eased the frustrations of the Lough Funshinagh residents affected by the flooding.
My dad farmed here all his life, very proud of it. He'd always describe himself as just a caretaker. We're here to mind it for future generations, and he loved farming. But Dad died suddenly 3 years ago, and farming full-time up until the day he died, as in sheep and cows. So when he died, myself and my sister Bernie, we said we'd keep going, give it a shot and see how we get on. So here we are. Since 2016, the water started to rise, and that's brought all its challenges with it. The flora and the fauna has completely changed, and as you look around, you can see all the trees that were in full health up until the last couple of years. They're the first casualty, I suppose, of the lake. All dead, and they're all rotten because they've been submerged for so long. Here would have been very vibrant with ducks and swans and all sorts of wildlife. There's a field over here. Ironically, it's called the Lough field, and now it's 2/3 under the Lough, but that's where we'd put the younger lambs. But we're running out of a bit of grass for them now, so we have to think what we'll do when they all lamb. So it's good grass that went underneath it. It has to be seen to be believed, because you talk about the flood and the water coming up all the time, but until you stand beside it and see and figure out what you're going to do, and the sheep, less grass to eat, move them on further, but where do we move them to? So I suppose we talk about getting extra feed and extra fodder for when the ewes are lambing. We've 100 ewes due to lamb in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
In an effort to raise awareness of the effects the flooding was having in the area, locals established the Lough Funshinagh Flood Crisis Committee.
The committee then really got into full activity, I would say, in 23, 24. So we got in touch and we started to communicate very strongly politically. We became involved with the OPW, Minister Patrick Dullivan. He began to be quite supportive. This was all seen mostly since the beginning of this rise of water, last September, October, when the rain really started.
Apart from the homes, there's 3 farmyards, and only for the local authority are pumping the water across the road on the Bala side. Those 3 farmyards will be flooded, and 2 houses as well. It's just an awful situation for the residents of those houses to be in. It's not just your house floods, then you clean up the mess. They're on an edge for practically 6 months of the year now.
It's like an ocean out there. If they weren't pumping it, we'd be in big trouble, to come in. And now it's a mess, the whole lot of it. It's not nice looking out at that every day. But the front gate over there, now the road is as high as it. We haven't gone out that front gate in ages now, with the way things are here. That house there, the people had to leave it 1 year. They were gone the best part of a year because the water was there beside it. I have no intention of moving now, no matter what way the water comes, because we can't move. We have animals out there in the shed. We have cows calving. We have sheep going to lamb. So what do you do? Where do you go? You can't stay away from them. Well, you have to be here, A house in town to us is no good. So it's not. So what do you do?
Dad married in here in 1956. He has a great love, as we all have, of the area around us. And unfortunately, it's in the state it's in at the moment. We actually had a roadway around by those trees, which isn't there anymore. And of course, the farmyard is full of water. It's all very disturbing, worrying. It's a source of anxiety. I think Dad would agree with that.
It's a sheep shed, that's what it was. Yeah. Well, nothing now. You wouldn't bring a cat, don't mind a sheep. So,